back. This is Rubbin Minds. Before the break, we were having a conversation about police brutality and the hashtag #EndSARS movement. Now, one of the reasons for the protests last year was the fact that there's a lot of profiling amongst our young people. So if a policeman sees you and you have a dreadlock or you look a certain way, you are certified to be a criminal. There's a local parlance that says dress the way you should be addressed or the way you want to be addressed. But the big question is, should we dress the way we want to be addressed based off of the opinion of others, or should we dress the way we want to dress based off how we feel? That leads me to our discuss, which is the generational divide on good dressing. So what is good dressing, quote and unquote? With me in the studio is the creative director and, of course, art curator. Yes, Erin Olowo Boroku.
Hi.
I hope I got the surname correctly.
Yes, you did. Almost. I'll give you a 90%.
90%. That's a pass mark. So let's just dive in straight into it. Do you ever get profiled?
I mean, yes, of course. Absolutely. The simple and short answer to that is yes. I do, of course. A lot. I think I was on the show even.
Oh, the Big Brother show.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. And I find your style very unique. But do you think that this style sometimes maybe give people a different opinion about you? And a follow-up question to that, do you think it sometimes also affects what you get as an individual in terms of jobs or in terms of how people relate to you?
Yes, 100%. Okay, so your first question, yes, absolutely. The way people relate to me, address me, what they even think about me before they get a chance to have a conversation. Yeah, it's a complete, profiling situation. Yeah, and yes, it's like societal profiling. Obviously, like, the consequences differ. Like you said, sometimes it might be jobs. It might just be, to be honest, it might just be like affinity, like simple and short. Like, do people want to be associated with you based off of this alone? And of course, in extreme cases, you get police brutality. So, yeah.
Okay, so there seems to be a generational divide when it comes to style, okay? Yeah. I'm a millennial, and you are Gen Z, if I'm correct.
No, you're 100% wrong.
What do you mean? You're not Gen Z. Oh, no. You're millennial.
Yes, I am.
Okay, so we're both millennials.
Oh, Lord.
But we can see the generational divide in style. You know, when you see a Gen Z person, the way they dress, a millennial, the way they dress. Our parents, they have a different dress style. But also culturally, growing up, that our parents expect us to dress in a certain way.
Yes, absolutely.
And they call it the responsible dressing.
Exactly.
Do you think, how do you think that generational gap is being bridged now?
Okay, so
are parents more liberal?
Exactly. So that's exactly what I was going to say just now. I was going to say, so Gen Xers are the parents of the Gen Zers. So they're in between us and baby boomers. Baby boomers are our own parents. So, of course, like, it's almost like you can kind of see a dilution in, like, what is culturally acceptable. Obviously, you can draw a straight line from that to the internet and the rise of, us being in, like, a global age and, like, having technological influences. Having global influences, you can be in Nigeria and, like, you completely adore, or, like, your role model is someone that is, halfway across the world. So yeah, the things that are expected of us, and to be honest, I actually, what is culture? It's like a way of life. It's not absolute. It's not absolute, one, and it's also fluid. It's in flux. The things that they used to do in the 1800s completely is different from, like, what they do in 1900s. So it's the 2000s. But I don't know why. I mean, like, well, I do know why. The tension. So the change is the reason for the tension. You can't really have, that kind of change without there being some sort of tension. So.
All right, just hold that thought. I will connect with Biodun right now. He's a media personality, and I'm also proud to call him my friend. Biodun, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Hero. So good to see you again, buddy.
First of all, I'm very angry with you, but we'll have to sort that off air. Congratulations on getting married. You have left some of us.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel to be a married man?
It's fascinating that you asked that question in light of the topic that we're having because I'm now in the world where I'm navigating my identity as a married man versus, the identity that I have built for myself as a media personality. It's very interesting, but life is good. Join us on this side, buddy.
Okay, okay, I see. So can you tell us the disparity? How do you still dress the same way? Because we all know you're a slay king, quote and unquote. Now that you're a married man, is there a certain way married people have to dress?
Um, so I think that when it comes to the idea of dressing, I think that the fundamental thing is presentation. How do I want to represent in the society? Because we have to remember that dressing itself is communication. It summarizes who I am, my background, my upbringing, my faith, my beliefs, the industry that I exist in. Right now, I feel like the space that the conflict exists is I acknowledging the fact that I'm not just dressing for me, I'm now dressing for two people. So there's a version of, oh, how does Gordon appear? And then how does my wife's husband appear? And the conversations that are going to be happening around that. I feel like like Irene said, it's in flux. And the objective there is to just always find a balance that keeps me happy.
Okay, speaking about balance, Irene, I just want to paint a scenario. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, in as much as we should dress the way we feel and what makes us feel very comfortable, are there situations where we might have to adjust our taste if it doesn't really go down well with a particular environment? Take, for example, if you're heading to a religious institution, be it a mosque or a church, and you like to sort of show a bit of skin, do you think we should adjust that just so we can blend in?
You know what? I actually think that that question is very packed, and it has a lot to do with, obviously, like individual discretion. But let's just like put a pin in that, in individual discretion. So that just means, how I'm going to answer that question. Or, again, that question is like something you definitely come across daily. Like you said, this is something that we go through every day. So it's like if I'm going to church today, or if I'm going to like a formal meeting, like a meeting, or like you say, any type of thing like that. So it has to do with personality first, and like again, like I said, discretion. But what I think underpins everything, us as a society need to come from a place of empathy. So what that means is if someone feels like they're in their rights, or today they're in a place where they feel like ignoring the expectations or ignoring the rules, I think that should be allowed. Like we should be allowed some sort of leeway when it comes to things like that. So like you're not going to respond violently or harshly if you see someone, if you already know in your mind that they may just be having a day. You know what? They might just decide to do it like this however they want. Because how I think about it is, of course we apply rules even when we think we're like open-minded or progressive, or we don't want like cultural bylaws or tenets to guide our lives, But at the end of the day, still, if you're going for like a cocktail event, or if you're going for, you will still apply certain rules where they say dress code is this or dress code is that. So sometimes it's spoken and it's unspoken. But my thing is, just because some of these things are stronger than others, just because if I'm going for like a cocktail party now and they say dress code is this, if I'm going to abide by that, it's a one-off event. It's a one-nighter where that doesn't actually, is not like an overcast on how I live my life. Whereas culturally and religiously, you don't necessarily pick and choose, even if you do for the most part. So majority, you would probably want to abide by whatever that is.
Okay, so in essence, you're saying that as much as possible, if you can, try to adapt to a particular situation. However, if there are cases where you now have to dress in a certain way that is not totally acceptable, that people should also understand where you're coming from. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, but the reverse. People should understand first and already not even put any expectations of me. Now, if I feel like, I'm going to, play it this way or play it that way, I should be allowed to do both.
Okay. Bjordan, I think we need to also try to demystify certain things, all right? So when I think saying good dressing is a bit ambiguous, and it's very subjective. So how would you define good dressing?
This is an interesting one. So I would define good dressing as, first of all, comfortable, what I feel most comfortable in, and what I feel is best representative of my personality and my interests in life. We referenced the whole idea of profiling, right? And one thing that I want people to kind of acknowledge is the fact that this thing about profiling exists within a culture that is still evolving. Ari mentioned something about how our parents grew up they exist in a time where technology is not prevalent. Think of when you were 5 years old, you could run to your parents and just hug them and say, I love you, and they probably would.
Yeah.
Parlance where you meet your father or your mom at a cocktail party and you're able to, exchange such pleasantries. Our generation is becoming more enlightened and people are starting to adapt to certain lifestyles. The Gen Zers are having so much fun in how they express themselves because of the prevalence of these new industries, tech, fashion, media. They don't have to dress in the corporate way as we kind of did or we are kind of doing now in the 9 to 5 because they don't exist in that space. So it's more of what makes you comfortable, what is representative of who you are, and pretty much just acknowledging social norms, I guess. That's what good dressing is to me.
Okay, fantastic. Now, going by your definition, I am most comfortable in a hoodie. So does that mean that I should come live on air dressed in a hoodie because I'm comfortable in a hoodie?
The occasion and the context in which you exist requires that you appear in a certain way. This show is Rubbin Mind, and it's a brand that has established itself with, the anchor appearing as a very formal, interesting individual. It kind of connotes the kind of way myself and you are speaking right now. If we meet at an event or something, myself and you probably be rolling on the floor, laughing hard, but here we are having a conversation tete-a-tete in a formal setting. Hence why the context kind of applies. You're dressed the way you are right now because of the brand that you're representing. I'm dressed the way that I am because I'm appearing on your show in this capacity.
Fantastic, Bjordan. Well said, but that does not mean I won't be dragging you right after the show off air because you did not invite me to your wedding. Aaron?
Congrats, Bjordan, by the way. On
Oh,
your,
yes.
wedding.
Oh, yes. We have a plan that when we get to a certain age, we're all going to get married at the same time.
Oh, my gosh.
And then Bjordan just goes out of nowhere and I said yes. Said yes to who?
Don't
Said
kill
yes to
me.
what?
Don't kill. So wait, what? You guys are old friends?
We are friends. So we just had the conversation that, you know what? I think we're getting to the age where we need to get married, that we're going to get married at this certain age.
Oh, wow.
All right? Together as friends. Like a group
Wow.
wedding. And then the next month, I just saw, I said yes. Aaron, we're wrapping up.
Don't
Final
kill
words.
me. Okay. Final words. Okay. So I think that in order to avoid dire consequences when we judge people by how they appear or we feel like people don't have the right to be unorthodox or unconventional where they can actually express themselves, how they feel, not by your definition of it. We kind of create a violent atmosphere, I think, or like violence adjacent at the very least, like a controlling atmosphere where people can't, express. And, if you can't express, you're basically dead inside. So
I like that. If you can't express, you're basically dead inside. And I had always wanted to ask you, yeah? Where do you find your inner strength to go against this societal profiling, to go against what the world throws at you? Because talking about the show, while you were on the show, we saw a lot of memes, we saw a lot of jokes. In fact, now that you're comfortable, there's one particular joke that said because of all of your rings, if you ever go close to a magnet, you're going to...
Oh, Lord.
So how do you take care of the trolls online?
You know what? I'm not even going to say it doesn't affect me because obviously some of the things that trolls tell you are things that your inner imposter also tells you. So you're inclined to believe it, even if it's for a short period. But what I will say is I think I am so self-absorbed and I think I exalt my creative capacity so much that it has actually never occurred to me to play by the rules. Like I've literally always created my own path and done it, like, regardless of, just because I think I'm that stubborn or very deliberately, like, daring, like, will only do it if I want to because, my peace means so much to me. Like, I spend so much time in my own mind that I need to be okay with myself first. So, yeah.
All right. Thank you so very much for coming. Biodun, we're really out of time. I would have loved to take your final words. Or maybe this is just me being very, very dramatic and not allowing you to say any other thing on the show. But thank you so much for coming.
This is your chance to interrupt him, Pedro.
All right.